on this computer. I think we're recording. Go ahead.
Evening, folks. Thanks everybody to join us. My name's Liam. I organize the Philly WordPress Meetup. So it's wonderful to see so many faces of people I do know, but even kind of more exciting to see lots of new people I haven't met and folks I haven't seen in a long time. So welcome everybody. Happy New Year. The organizers of our 3 meetups thought we would have somebody present an overview of Gutenberg, and then it kind of ended up who's on first, what's on second, and I drew the short straw about 12 minutes ago. So I'm going to do a little overview of Gutenberg. And really the purpose of this night is to share practical tips and ideas with actual Gutenberg blocks. So I'm only going to talk for about 8 or 10 minutes. And it's really just to be able to give those who are very new to Gutenberg a little bit of context for what everybody else is going to be sharing over the course of the evening. So with that in mind, I'm going to get started. And you heard Kim start us off by talking about the block editor. Now you hear me saying Gutenberg. And for those who have been paying attention, we understand that those are not, strictly speaking, one and the same. But I want to take just a moment to clarify that Gutenberg is the plugin that evolved into the block editor. So if you think about the way that software is developed, Gutenberg started as this plugin, and very smart developers and all sorts of teams were working to make the plugin better and better and better as effectively a content editor or replacement for the way that WordPress has historically edited content. If you think in your mind's eye, the page or the post, and you've got the title and then the content, Gutenberg, the plugin, was working to replace that. So as Gutenberg got closer and closer and closer to production and was launched, they started calling it was coming to be known as the block editor, because it was replacing what became to be known as the classic editor. So strictly speaking, we have the block editor that we see if we log into a new instance of WordPress that we haven't reconfigured in any way. And Gutenberg is the plugin. And the plugin continues to get developed. And then as that gets developed and refined and stabilized for use on live WordPress sites, on production WordPress sites, it gets moved into the block editor. Casually, they're used interchangeably. So that's all sorts of fun confusion when you're just getting started. But the block editor is not Gutenberg, although colloquially they're often referred to as the same. Okay. Hopefully moving on to less confusing things. The block editor, Gutenberg, was launched at WordCamp US. Ooh, I should have done a little bit more homework on this. I want to say in 2018, but maybe 2018 it is. I'm getting nods on that. And it came out of the box and got automatically added to WordPress, or got incorporated into a new release of WordPress. And to be candid, it was not as production facing and ready as a lot of folks would like. Had a lot of promise, but it wasn't quite as done as many people would have hoped for. And so since then, it's gotten better and better and better and better, and more reliable and more stable. And there's now a lot of websites. I have no stats, but there's a lot of websites, production websites, running Gutenberg, using the Gutenberg now block editor. I'm going to use them. I'm just going to call it the block editor. I'm going to leave Gutenberg behind. And if I say Gutenberg, somebody throw up a kind of virtual elbow and let me know. The block editor. So the block editor is very reliable. It's very stable, and it's very good. And a lot of very well-known, highly reputable sites use the block editor. And that's where we are today. It took a period of time to get to the point where a lot of folks were willing to embrace it. Now a number of folks have embraced it. I can share anecdotally that a lot of people, at least in the Philly area, are still keeping it at arm's length. In advance of tonight, I asked a number of folks in the WordPress community in and around Philadelphia to present about Gutenberg, and I got a number of, we're not using it yet, we're not putting on our client site yet. So hopefully some of those folks are here tonight and can see what the block editor can do, and what the block editor might offer both to you and to your clients. So where is the block editor going? At a very, very high level, ultimately the vision is to make an entire WordPress site editable via blocks. And again, that'll make more sense once you start to see what blocks are. But if you're familiar with, and that's just going to muddy the water, I'm going to leave it at that. Ultimately, the entire site is going to be edited via a block editor. Is that going to be next year? Maybe, maybe not. Is it going to be 2 years? I don't know. I'm not close enough to know on that. Certainly there are folks who are on the call this evening that will know. And after we go through all the blocks, we can have a general conversations about all things block editor and vis-a-vis Gutenberg. Okay, so what does the block editor do now? In a nutshell, it does everything the classic content editor did at its base level. You can add headings, you can add subheadings, you can add images, you can add text, all that. You can add links. But then what it does is it goes an extra step and allows for an element of structuring of content and visual control over of content and styling of content. So for example, within the block editor, you can add a button. You don't have to use a shortcode. You don't have to use anything except a block, a button block, and then you can configure that. And then from within the WordPress dashboard, using the block editor with just WordPress in one of the default themes, you can style the button, whether you want it big or small or blue or green or rounded and the like. And there's a whole slew of different blocks available. And that leads me on to the last point that I'm going to talk about is where do you get blocks? And blocks are increasingly more and more like plugins. This company makes their own set of blocks. That company makes their own set of blocks. These folks over here, they also make their own set of blocks. And because the blocks offer a whole range of functionality, everything from maybe you want columns and maybe you want 3 columns or 4 columns or 5. All of that can be afforded within a block. Maybe you want accordion style drop downs. Maybe you want any kind of, if you think about the front end of a site and how that content might get structured, there are blocks that can do that. And there are companies that make blocks. And I expect that if as we get through the evening, you're going to hear mention of different block makers, different block companies making blocks. And certainly in the chat, anybody who has recommendations for their preferred block providers can put them in there. So in a nutshell, that is the context for what we're talking about tonight. It started as Gutenberg, the plugin. It's now the block editor, and it is the default editor within the WordPress content management system. And it continues to evolve as Gutenberg, and then eventually gets merged into the block editor. So unless there were questions specifically about what I spoke about, I know there's a lot of things that we could go off on tangents on. The block editor is a pretty enormous topic. Then I'm gonna turn the mic back over to Kim and move on to the next presentation. Thanks, everybody.
Got to find my unmute button. Thank you, Liam. Just one point is also a lot of people can make their own blocks now. That's also another feature. So you just don't have, if you have an idea for functionality that you haven't seen, you can actually make your own. So tonight, Courtney Engel, back from, haven't seen her for a while. I'm trying to change my speaker view. There you are. Okay.
Hi there.
Is going to share. So I'll let her introduce herself and what she's sharing tonight.
Hey, so I am Courtney Robertson. You may still see me on Twitter as Engel. I can't get the username in Twitter as Robertson. That's my married name, just a thing. But I want to give a quick hello. One of my students, G, is in the room. G's in the Code Differently program where you will find me these days. I've worked in support at the events calendar. These days you'll find me teaching, well, today I was teaching beginner HTML, but I also teach, I'll go through CSS and Bootstrap, and we're heading into WordPress within just a few weeks. So we are a consolidated boot camp, specifically working with those in Delaware that have been unemployed as a result of COVID. And we're using CARES Act money so that our participants do not have to pay a tuition to be part of our program. It's all an initiative to get Delawareans back to work. And I hope I say that correctly, big Delawareans. I live in Chambersburg, so we live in Zoom. That's the web these days. You could also find me over helping out with the training team. I am one of the training team reps. I get to work with, I saw Cami Chaos coming in. We get to do all kinds of fun stuff with the learn.wordpress.org website. Speaking of that, I will share with you just a couple of super fast resources before I show you about the slides. Are you seeing my screen? Zoom's been giving me fits and starts some today when I've been sharing in class, so it makes me a little bit nervous. My screen doesn't always want to share, but we're seeing it now. So a couple quick resources, and I dropped them in the chat earlier, but if you need to jump back to find them, I would highly suggest, let's see, that's the Gutenberg plugin on .org if you want to get the advanced features. I will close that one out and maybe let Birgit later cover that. On learn.wordpress.org, I found the link specifically to using the block editor. So if you want to watch any of these videos later and or jump in on live workshops at your own convenience, there are some meetup type workshops around how to use the block editor. So that would be a good one to check out as a resource. Also on wordpress.org, if you type in wordpress.org/Gutenberg, you could see from the front end without having to install a thing, you could start playing around with all of the stuff. So that brings me to what I'm actually going to show you a bit tonight. You could test this out definitely a little bit later. The plugin that's been interesting when Liam reached out to me that I've been sort of dabbling with, I will say, is one that Matt Mullenweg used in State of the Word just 2 talks ago. So in the WordPress State of the Word event for 2019, Matt used this plugin as part of the Gutenberg experience when giving his slide presentation. So this is a plugin that you install into your WordPress website, and it allows you to create a new slide deck. It makes it technically as a custom post type. So you'll see presentations I have on my local sandbox type of site here. And with it, what I can do, are you still seeing my screen? Got some head nods? Good, cool. Okay, so when I go to add a new presentation, if you've been to a meetup or a WordCamp and you see that somebody is showing you a finished slide deck, but they're not using Slides, Keynote, they're not using Google Slides or something else, they're showing you something that just displays in the browser. And you're like, oh my goodness, that's really, that looks really cool, but I don't have the code skills to know how to do that. Well, this plugin actually can make it easier for us to just use WordPress to make it happen. That's kind of what the block editor can do. So if I give you a quick demo, this slide, I might say this is the title of the slide. And then I can say I want to add some speaker notes. And that would give me, when I go into preview it later, that will just give me some speaker notes that are here. I will add in a new slide. I'm hitting that black plus and I'm going to say slide, and I need to move my Zoom controls out of my way. So I'm going to select the slide block. It does a couple weird things. I'll submit some requests very soon on this one. But if I then see, oh, here's my second slide, and I'll just give it
Hey, Courtney, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. We're no longer seeing live updates of your screen. It's still at the listing page.
That's what Zoom was doing earlier. Thank you, Liam. Zoom sometimes makes me a little bit worried. I'm going to hit stop share and reshare. Do we see it? Or is it saying that I'm trying to share? You're seeing it now?
It says Courtney.
No, it's saying you're trying to share. I've started screen sharing, but it's still black.
Yeah, Zoom some days, I tell you. This plugin is really actually quite helpful. Give me a head nod or a chat message if somebody sees that my screen shows up. Still not, oh man. Wow. If I need to, I could turn over to Andy and see what happens there. Try again, still no. Oh boy. Well, in that case, I am going to, would you prefer that I try and talk us through it? Or would you prefer that I defer to one of the other presenters?
Which do you feel better about, Courtney? Do you want to, we'll let Andy go and then we'll try to get you back in?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Sorry about that. All right. So that slide thing is cool. I did see that presentation that Matt did, and I was like, and I also know that people were working on the slides like right before it. They were just putting them together for him.
Oh yeah, they were. And I'll drop a link to the notes while we pass the hands-on over. But in the chat, I've just dropped a link to everyone on the story of how they made the plugin and who made it. It's been updated. It's now in the .org repo. So if you'd like to get it and use it with the block editor, it's really handy.
Great. Thank you. We'll come
Sorry
back
about
to you
that.
then. So Andy is also working in Delaware. So I'll let Andy introduce himself. Can you get a hold of the screen, Andy, there?
Let me give it a shot.
I see you not eating breakfast.
Yes, for once I'm not eating. My wife and I actually ate dinner before the meetup.
Okay, there you are.
All right, how's my screen looking? Good?
Good so far.
And we can see me scrolling up and down. Okay, cool. All right, perfect. So my name is Andy Stitt. I live in West Philadelphia, but my life is very much steeped in Delaware right now because I'm a web developer working for the Government Information Center. We are a part of the Delaware Department of State. And our biggest project at the moment is the Delaware coronavirus website. We work with state agencies all across Delaware, but our biggest project is working with the health department and the governor's office and the emergency management department on the coronavirus website. And right now we're doing vaccine rollouts and trying to make sure that everyone gets vaccinated. So essentially I have the coolest job in the world right now, but boy, I can't wait until this is over. But for now, it's really nice to be able to serve in a time of national crisis. So the block that I am going to be presenting on tonight is a Cadence block. And so there's a company called Cadence. They make theme. They have a theme and plugins. And one of their plugins is called Cadence Blocks. And so essentially, it gives you blocks that aren't included in like the standard Gutenberg block suite. And so we manage, I don't know exactly how many websites we manage, but I'd say it's probably up to 100, maybe more. And they're all on WordPress, and most of them are on Classic Editor. And so we are currently working on converting all of the Classic Editor sites to use the block editor. And all of our sites are also built on Bootstrap. And one of the features that we've used with Bootstrap is the accordion for content to be able to kind of condense it down. And we use a Bootstrap shortcodes plugin that's only good with Bootstrap 3. And it is no longer being supported. And now Bootstrap is up to Bootstrap 5. I believe 5 is in beta. And so now we're basically playing catch up and trying to use the Bootstrap elements that we used with the shortcodes. We're trying to figure out how to do it in blocks. And so we are using the accordion block from Cadence Blocks. And to show you an example of what that looks like, I recently built and launched this website for the municipality of Delaware City, Delaware. And they have a lot of pages with a lot of documents, meeting minutes, newsletters. It can get very, very lengthy. And so we can use these accordions to organize them. And so basically anyone can expand or contract the accordion anytime they want. And this is what it looks like in the page editor itself. So it's pretty easy to use, pretty overall user friendly. And since we are on a production site right now, I am just going to create a draft page so that I don't inadvertently mess something up to demonstrate how it works. So we add the block. You can type in accordion in the search and it comes up. And so then you can select an initial style. We just always go with the default one because we do the styling for the default one in the CSS style sheet. And this is 2015. And then we can put our documents in here. All of the links, you can put whatever kind of block you want within the accordion. 2014 documents in here. So it gives you 2 default blocks to start out with. And then you can add as many accordion items as you want and keep on going all the way down the list. And that's pretty much how it works. And then you can preview it to see how it's going to look. It's pretty much going to look like this, like what I previously showed you. And if you want to check out the Cadence Blocks plugin, you can look at the features on cadenceblocks.com, or if you just want to install it directly, it's a free plugin. It has some premium features to it, but if you want to just install the free version, you can. I'll just do a real quick, just in case you're not entirely familiar with that process. I'm actually not sure if I'll be able to do it from here since, okay, never mind. I'm not going to be able to do it from this site since it's a government site and we don't install plugins this way, but essentially you will be looking for an add new plugin button, and then you can just search for Cadence Blocks and install it that way. And that is my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andy. That looked really easy.
It's incredibly easy. It's incredibly easy to knock out a really nice accordion, and then you just do the styling in your CSS style sheet.
I remember having to add code to do that in the past to your pages. So that's a great one. I'll have to look at that. Thank you.
Sure.
So thank you, Andy. So Courtney, any luck? Oh, she has to get in. That would help. Hey, Courtney, perfect timing. Does she hear us? She's probably still muted.
Hey there.
Hey, you want to give it another spin?
Yeah, so I just got rebooted just because sometimes that's what it takes to get Zoom in order. I'm starting my local machine. Give me just a moment to hit reload, and we will try one more time. Andy, I'm so sorry I missed. Thank you for going next.
Oh, no problem. And I also wanted to clarify for you that you did pronounce it correctly. It is Delawareans.
Delawareans. That's good. Yeah. Yep. I'm sure you get to work with lots of them these days.
Yep. All 975,000 of them.
You met all of them?
There we are.
No, not in person, but I feel like I have some days.
I think I know the feeling, and all of it's in Zoom. Yep. So, right, the slides plugin, it creates some presentations. For those that know code, it outputs to Reveal.js the way that we might see it from GitHub repos for some people that have given presentations that way. If you're like, I want mine to look that cool, but I don't want to code and I don't know how to code, well, then this is a solution for you. So I made one slide as a title and put some speaker notes in. And then on my next slide, I could say, this is a subheading, and maybe I want to put a list in. Using the block editor, I can hit the plus icon at the top. I could hit the black.
Again.
Oh, gee. Does it at least show my screen?
I can see your screen, but it's not moving anymore. Like you scroll down to the second slide.
Yeah. Wow, Zoom. I don't know what to do about it. It just started having this kind of fit for me recently here.
Is that a live site or local?
It's a local site.
Have you tried sharing the whole desktop?
It is sharing the whole desktop.
Oh,
Kevin.
Man.
Yeah, so sorry. Let's do this one more. I'm prepping just in case it gives it back to me. This is a list. And let's try hitting stop share and start share again. And the thing is, it only happens if I am trying to do it while sharing my screen. Do we see my screen? I don't want to waste time. Nope. Still a negative, says read. Oh boy. Yeah. And the funny thing is I can hit start share, and one of these times it takes, and then the others. So this is life in Zoom. If I can't keep going on it, what I can suggest is that with this one plugin, if you learn how to use the block editor, you've got all the controls of creating an entire slide deck. And technically in WordPress, this means that it's a custom post type. That means that I can use the block editor to create my slides. I will actually record a quick video for all of you and let the meetup organizers put it out. I can record that myself over, not tomorrow, we've got WordFest going on tomorrow, but I will get it recorded for you very soon, and we will get that info out. But what it allows you to do is literally you could hit the plus sign, tell it you want to add a bullet list, and it will let you start typing in your bulleted list. On the right-hand side, when you get to know the Gutenberg block editor experience, you've got a control panel at the far right-hand side that lets you change little settings like, I would like to have my font size bigger, or I want it to be a different color, or I would like this thing to be right aligned or left aligned. So you can have all of those controls in a visual manner and get that same look when you hit publish with this slide presentation. And if you'd like to see it in action, go back and watch Matt's State of the Word Talk from 2019, and you could see a finished slide deck from that one. That's what I will say to that. I really like the plugin. I am sorry that Zoom is being fickle about not sharing my screen. I got through all of class today, 3 hours on
And
Zoom.
that's important.
No
yes.
Zoom issues. So I don't know why Zoom.
If you can make a
picks the
little
things.
video or point us towards that, I'm taking notes and we'll share that.
I absolutely will. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. It was good to see you again.
Yep.
Next, Birgit. Birgit is going to actually share something that's native to the block editor without an install, correct?
Correct, yes.
All right.
Not one of those good plugin suites. So I'm going to share my screen. Hello, everybody. I'm so glad I'm here. I miss you all from WordCamps and other meetups. And I'm so glad that Kim pinged me for tonight. So I'm going to share my screen. For those who don't know me, I'm the publisher of the Gutenberg Times, and I curate news and community voices around the block editor for the last 3 years now. Wow, yeah. And weekly, yeah, we have a weekly newsletter. We have a Gutenberg changelog. That's a podcast that we talk through every time there's a new plugin coming out, plugin version coming out, go through the changelog and talk about maybe between 15 and 20 items. My co-host is Mark Urain, who is a designer on the team. And then, and I just wanted to shout out for those who want to learn more about the status of the site editor, not the block editor. It's also, yeah, it's a full site editing thing, experience, not thing. The full site editing experience with the block editor. On January 29th at 11 a.m. Eastern, we have a live Q&A with Carolina Niemark and Ari Statopoulos and Anne McCarthy. So Carolina Niemark, she was on the team to create the 2021 and is also on the themes review team. Ari as well, he had the first block-based theme that works with the site editor in the repository. The name is Q, like question. And then Anne McCarthy is relatively new on the core team, and she does some developer relations wrangling. And she is also the one who runs the program on the full site editing experience, the testing program that's around. So check in. I also offer a zip from master. So when you test, so every 2 weeks, the new plugin comes out, but once in a while, if you help testing, you might wanna, I ran into quite often the answer of, oh, this is not working in the WordPress version, or this is not working in the last Gutenberg version. And then you hear back after you went through all the issues. Have you tried master? It's fixed in master already. It hasn't released yet, but do that. So almost every day I'll put a build together and put it up there on that page. And it even has, so you can add it as a plugin, upload it. And it also will say, okay, that's the Gutenberg, that's the release, and here's the nightly that's gonna override it. But then you can also get an update with an additional plugin. So, so you don't have to download Node. You don't have to run 230,000 files onto your hard drive. You just kind of use it as a plugin. So this is just briefly on that. And then we have a lot of content there. The most visited right now is our WordPress blog patterns resource. If you haven't checked out the patterns yet, I really would suggest you try them out and get a little bit deeper into that. Okay. Or subscribe to our newsletter that comes out every Saturday, where we have a roundup of all the good things that other people write. All right, so the blog that I'm a huge fan of is the media and text blog. So you have on one side, you have a picture, and then on the right-hand side or the left-hand side, on the other side, you have text and other blocks there. Because it's very versatile. So this is the editing screen, but before I go in and kind of show it off, this is kind of how that's also media and text, how it actually can come out. This is from the Genesis theme, and they did some nice, that's actually out of the box, a nice design around it. And then we did also a kind of a coffee book style connections for a foundation, where they can say, okay, this is what we did there for the various grantees. So just so you kind of see a little bit the variety that's out there. My testing thing, test environment here is 2021. And I think I have one alpha version of 5.7 and the latest Gutenberg plugin, which came out today 9.8. So if you want to add one, not up here. So what I like on the new version is when you hover over on your border on a block, you get kind of a little animation there. So I like that. So you can add a block, media and text, and that looks like this. You have the media and then here the content. So I can look from the media library. I'm gonna take this nice flower, put it in there, and then I have some, do I still have the text there? Nope, hang on. I just grab it from here. And then I have some text. And then you get in the theme has the 2021 theme has also a border there. And when you click to preview, you can see how that works, how it looks. That was not the one, this was the one with the border and the nice flower. So it kind of makes that nice here. When we go back, you can have not the border, but what you also could do is kind of the color settings. You can have of course, my favorite are gradients, right? You can have a gradient around it. And you have some other settings. So stack on mobile, you want to have that always checked. So when that it kind of stacks with the picture above and then the text underneath. But you could also say crop the image to fill the entire column. And we have here some white space on top and on the bottom. So if I enable that, it kind of shrinks it to the size of the text. And I really like that. You can also then say, okay, I want it full width. And when we update, I'm just updating and then go at the preview, you can go and see. So this is not filling it up. This is filling it up, and this is filling it up. So you can interrupt a very dense text page with some nice coloring in between, some picture, and then some nice shout outs. Of course, you can always add a header to it, a heading, like this one, Streets of Merida, and then you can say, okay, add buttons, and then book right here, book now. I want to travel there, and then have a button there. And then you can certainly always change how the button looks. And you get all kind of different things there. Sometimes you have the pages are too wide, but you don't want the text to go all the way. So what I do is sometimes I just have a little, have the text half through or 2/3 and then pictures on the left. So it kind of breaks up the text a little bit. I don't know if you write novels or not, but I think that's certainly something to do. So that's the media and text. Did I forget some feature? Let me look. We have the stack. Yeah, of course you need to put the alt text in for your picture. You could also say, okay, this picture, I don't need the full size. I can do the large or I can do the medium thing. Yeah. And then in advance, you can always add an anchor to it if you want to, that you can kind of point to that. We are thinking about doing that here on the impact stories, that we say, okay, yeah, which was the organization, yeah, that you can, like the food rescue truck, yeah, just point to a certain section of the page. I think that's really easy too.
Is that
So
anchor default? Is that a default block, or is that from
that is a core block. It
is
comes
core block.
like this. Yeah, it is a core block. It does not come, it's already on your, in Gutenberg, in the block editor, and has some, yeah.
Those are
All
great
right.
pictures.
That's it. That's what I know today. I have more, but I can probably talk about hours about it. But if we have some questions later, I'm happy to do some demonstrations if there are other things there.
That's wonderful. Can you make that text go to the top and not center it? Is there
Yeah, there are some, there's a
over
vertical
there,
alignment.
alignment.
Yeah,
Right.
vertical alignment. You can also put a link on the picture. Yeah,
Nice.
and yeah, the alignment we have, and then yeah, then you also can hear there's not a whole lot of in there. I add to reusable block, but that's the normal more options kind of thing.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're
That was
welcome.
the first. That was the first core one we've been able to look at. So thank you for sharing that. Core, I always forget. Core is the
Core.
word. If it comes
the
with
word.
WordPress,
Mhm.
it's core. Okay, good to know.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Anytime.
And you're going to stick around so we can do questions in a little bit. Great. So we have just a couple more quick ones. I don't have my list. Someone right. I think Amy was going to be next. Amy is one of the leaders from Philadelphia. Are you ready?
Sure thing. You like me to go?
Oh, it got moved around. I'm sorry.
Or we
Are
have
you-
someone in front of me? I don't care.
Well, all of a sudden I see my name is first, but if you don't mind going, fine. The list got moved, or I don't know. I made the outline.
You're the boss. You're the boss tonight, Kim. You're the boss.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Amy.
All right, I'm down. Hi, I'm Amy Letson from mainly these days Philly WordPress Meetup, but I'm also a member of the Burbs Meetup. Well, aren't we all members of all the meetups now because everyone's online? Probably got into the community around 2015. I started attending things and very quickly ended up volunteering at events, and now I'm co-organizing the Philly Meetup along with Kevin. And last couple of years, I co-organized Philly's annual WordCamp. I work at the Institute on Disabilities at Temple University, doing all of our website things. And actually most of it's not WordPress right now. But speaking of WordPress, we can get on to my blocks here. I happen to also pick a cadence block like Andy. And I did just about his accordions. I wanted to mention that I'm, it's not live, but I'm building, doing a little consulting for a small business. And I'm using the accordion and it's looking really sharp. And it was super easy to help organize all of her stuff, you know, because it's like, I have these main services and then she gave me like a ton of, here are my other things that I do. And, you know, you can just cinch it all up into the accordions and not have it in somebody's space being overwhelming off the bat. So I'm going to share my screen and show you. I'm not going to take you through the editing experience. I don't think I really have time, but I'll show you sort of the front end on this local site that I have running. And this is, where's my sharing? Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have permission.
And this is going to be, sorry, I'm just trying to decide which one of my two that look the same. Okay. Are you seeing cadence blocks, advanced heading?
Yes.
Okay, so that's my block, cadence blocks. I think a nice thing about actually when you install this plugin, there is a lot there at the free level, and you don't have to activate all of its components. So you could just say, well, I want advanced headings so that I can do more than the stock headings that I get with my theme. And you might want accordions and a button or something like that. This is a local installation of the new default theme, the 2021 theme. And this is a blog post I made that nobody can really see on the internet. Here's a screenshot of kind of what a partial view of the editing experience might look like. You have on the left, this is your page, and on the right, you have some of the controls you might be able to access. And so I'm thinking that you might want to decide, do I want this, or does my theme have enough? Do I already know enough things and I don't need to install more things? Well, if your theme doesn't offer enough heading styles for polished look and you just want to get going, this is a really simple way to go. You might want to spin up a new site very quickly, get it out. You see that happening a lot these days. And you want it to be a little bit more than just this basic thing out of the box that looks generic. This might also be a good one for you. And I think really you can do everything this block does with CSS, but if that's not your strong suit, this also might be a good block for you. So some pluses about this theme, I think, are beyond your base theme, you can use a bunch of options, get in very quickly and easily, get it done. You can adjust your size and your font weight and your font style. You can adjust line height. Now that's kind of a basic block thing that you might already have with a heading block. You might have line height, text color, and a background color, but you don't have a lot of control over things that this would give you additionally, like the actual font spacing, the spacing between the letters, more control over the background color and background styles. And you also get access to a massive amount of font families. Whatever Google has, you get in a drop down and you can go in there and grab a different font from what you already have for your base theme. And more on that, I guess, in a minute. Another nice thing is your basic headings are not going to have different settings for small, medium, and large size screens. So there are breakpoints here that you can select and have a different thing happening right on someone's phone than you might have on here on my desktop. Also, it's free, so that's pretty cool. Now, things to think about. I think performance is more important than just loading up on additional fonts. So it's up to you to test as you go and see if it's worth it. Also, you know, you could sit and fiddle with the controls and just go down a rabbit hole and do a lot of stuff and have a lot of fun. And I think you want to, for most cases, you want to step back and determine if this is still in keeping with your overall theme and your overall style, your overall purpose of the site. I did find in testing that some of the tools seem to leave behind a little markup cruft when I added them and took them away. It kind of reminded me of like Dreamweaver version 3. Kim's nodding and laughing, right? Used to do that. I think it was when I was working with the highlighter control, which if you scroll back up on this graphic up here, there's the little highlighter tool. I had to find that because it's not over on the sidebar, but that's where you can pick out, you know, half a line of your half of your heading and do something with it. And it doesn't affect the whole heading. Again, that's kind of not a standard thing. And I think some of the styles will be easier to work with if they just had a reset control, so you could zero out what you just did that was getting awkward and start over. So let me show you the result here of, do a little comparison. This is a different page. Oh, and this is just, if all this content looks weird and awkward, it's just filler stuff. So don't worry. Here you have the 2021 theme standard level 2 heading. And again, here, that's it. It looks good, but there's not a lot to it. Again, you can change the color and you can add a background color. And you can change the line height, and that's about it. And here's a level 3 heading. Now, if we go to a very similar page, I'll show you some of the effects of the Cadence Advanced header. I'm not recommending this is the style you want here, but the difference is I was able to select a font that's not installed in this theme. I was able to do something with one half of my heading that did not affect the rest of the text. So that's a little different. And the highlighter thing is popular. I don't know if you want this kind of border around it, but that's something you could choose to do. And the caps don't come from me typing capital letters. It comes from me changing the font style using a control in this Cadence block. And if I were to go to a small screen, it wraps nicely, and it remains centered. I think it was already centered, but if I scroll down, here's the level 3 heading. I right aligned this at large size. We go small, and now it's centered. So that's a really nice thing, I think, with the breakpoints that are included. And also there's a text shadow I added. That's not really my favorite, but I just wanted to show you that it's there. And that's really, I think, all you would need to do to get going with this. And thank you.
And you said that, is that the same plugin then that Andy shared, but
Yes.
just a different part of it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So the same address.
Right,
Okay.
right. You can install that collection, and what he showed you is available in there if you want to activate it. And what I'm showing you is another piece you can activate.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's pretty intuitive. Let me stop sharing.
All right. And we're going to have Liam and then myself, and then we'll be open for questions. So cut 2 more blocks. Mr. Liam, are you around?
I sure am. I sure am.
So weird
Thanks,
not being
everybody.
able to see everybody because there's so
That's
many.
okay. It's a big meetup. It's a big
It
meetup
is.
tonight. So I'm going to talk about the divider and spacer
Yes.
blocks. And first I'm going to get the right place. Here we go. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to drag this stuff out of the way. The divider and spacer blocks are really helpful when you're putting in new blocks, particularly if you're going with a new block library that you're not familiar with. I'm using the atomic blocks here just because that's the version that popped into my head when I said I should add something that's not what I'm used to working with. And I'm using the Cadence theme, which is also something I'm not used to working with. But where the divider and the spacer blocks become really valuable is when you want to create a little bit of visual space on a page and you don't want to, or you don't know how to write CSS for a child theme, or you don't want to write CSS in the customizer, or you don't want to pay somebody else to. You can use the divider and the spacer, and sometimes their functionality overlaps, but you can use those two to give yourself a little bit of a visual space on your page. So on the front end of the site here, here's my little about page and about company page. And I've put in a visual spacer here. And then I put in a few different dividers here. And it's really just to kind of breaking it up. So maybe we're working with a client and they have all sorts of written copy and they're ready to go on that, but they don't have an image library, or they don't really know what images they want, or you know, any number of reasons where there's just not going to be the image level content on the site, on the page, to make it kind of visually engaging. You can use some dividers and some spacers, really to make it a little bit easier to get to the content, or to read it. Okay, so just briefly on that, I've already added the blocks in, and just kind of click on one, and you can see that this is my divider, I think. And it's a separator, I'm sorry, it's a separator. And we have a few different settings all up and down here, and they're really pretty simple and easy to use. There's not a lot to it. It quite literally is a horizontal line. In the classic editor, we might add horizontal line, but we wouldn't have the capacity to style it in any kind of meaningful way. So we can do a wide line, or we can do a default line, and just gives us some variance there. We've got a little bit of options. Do we want a wide line, or do we want dots? And just like we saw with the block that Amy just shared with us, you just go through down the side here and you can pick all the options for you and the colors and the like. One of the things that's kind of nice about the spacer, at least from Atomic Blocks, is that it actually has a divider in it as well. So we can add a divider line and just change it up a little bit. We can make it kind of big that way. And then we can also change the height of how much space we're giving. And all of that is just a quick save. So come back over here, refresh the screen here. You can see here it is. It doesn't look great for what we're doing with this, but you can see it's two quick, helpful tools to give yourself a little bit more visual space, or to create a visual break on a page where otherwise the text-heavy nature of the content might be a little bit overwhelming. So it's short and sweet and to the point. Again, that was the Atomic Block library, just to show a little change of pace.
Nice.
And with that, Kim, I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right.
Unless you had a question.
Nope, we had just said in the chat that it's now Genesis blocks.
Okay. Well, I just downloaded it as Atomic about an hour ago.
Yes, they're still in the repository as Atomic Blocks, but Genesis is the one that's being updated.
Right. Okay.
For those, but that's great. So I'm going to share my screen if I can find it. So if I'm assuming many of us have used page builders before. Do I have the whole screen on there, or sorry, I'm just going to share my, you don't want to see my whole screen. All right, can you see the sea shanty? Anybody? Yes, okay, I'm sorry, my pictures are over here. I can't see you nodding, thank you. All right, so if you've used a page builder, I used Divi for a short time for a client. And even though I didn't love Divi, one thing I really did like was some of the little tricks I could do to hide things from the screen that I didn't want to show. And right now that isn't something that is built in. So here we go, we have sea shanties, a video, but if I have somebody who is on a mobile, I have hidden it. And what I've done to do that is added a plugin called Editor's Kit. Now, Editor's Kit has a lot of other little extra features that an editor may want, and I don't even know everything they provide, but I'm going to show you what I do with it. So right now I have a client, they hold an event every February for something, and then next year it's going to be held again. We don't want to take the page down, but we still want certain content to show. But we want to hide some of the other content till next year. So this is my new event. And I have, and this is really cool. When you're in the block, you can hit plus.
I'm also in another meeting, so I'm trying, and I
You may want to mute whoever's talking. Anyway, you hit the block plus, and you can get the blocks that are available to you. But the other thing, if you know what you want, and you write in the block, you go slash, and I know that I want a header, and then I get it right there. So I'm going to say, this is my content, and I'm going to hit that. Now I'm going to have some content, which this is. So I have some content, and then of course, we're going to see that. And that's all that content. Now I don't want to erase, I know it's still loading. I don't want to erase it. I want to save it for next time. Oh, come on, think about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm in my block. I select my block, and over on the right, you have page or block. Whenever we're working with a block, of course, we want that. When you have the editor's kit, you get some extra options. One is for responsive. So you could hide it for different modes. I can hide it all the way if I want to. But what I really like is I hide it for just people who are logged out. So my developers and my people working on the site can still see the content when they're logged in, but only people who are, if you're logged out, you can't see it. So these I find are really useful features. It's kind of the same thing that you might get for what if you're using Divi or if you're using Elementor, which is very popular. And I love having that feature. You can add classes. Here's where you can add the anchor. So these are little extra things that are there. The other part of the toolkit, editor's kit, if you go over under settings, they give you a place. So you may be concerned handing this off to a client. There's so many blocks and so many features that because you're trying to keep a certain consistency to your site, you don't want them to use. You can disable different blocks by using this screen. So if you don't want the editors to use, especially if you've installed other plugins, if you don't want them to use some of the features, you can turn them off. Like if you don't want them to ever underline or use superscript, whatever. So that's just a quick thing that I have found useful. I don't think it's totally free. I don't think anybody's bought it yet. And it doesn't cost money. They do have another feature for fonts, but that's what you got for that. And that is that. So,
Can I ask you a question
Mhm.
about the hiding feature? Are you getting the same effect if you hide something for all the breakpoints as you would get for hiding it from a logged out user? In other words, is it loading in the, is that content actually loading in the background for some, but it's just hidden by CSS, or does it depend
actually, I'm not sure. I'm assuming that hide, when I do it for logged out users, which is logged in, is what I do when I really, really don't want them to see them.
Right.
I assume it's not on the page, but I've never.
So I would hope that that one is not like
yes
somewhere in the code, you know, that they could find. Okay,
but it
would be worth checking, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. But that's the one thing that made, because that's the one thing about Divi that I did like, because we would create something that we wanted to show on one and not on another, and that to have that functionality. And I'm kind of surprised. I don't know if that's something that Core is looking at adding at one time. Birgit, I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Adding the option to hide a block, like keep it on your page, but hide it. Mute.
I have not seen any discussion about that, but I just recently found, and it was just block visibility. It's another plugin that just does that. Yeah, it doesn't come with a whole other thing what Editor Kit does. It's called block visibility, and you can actually schedule things.
Oh,
So when you have an event and you just want to share, okay, this is the event, and then you have some other resources that you want to share afterwards, you can put them already in the post and then schedule them, and then by the next day it's already up there for people to see. That's pretty nifty.
that sounds really good. I would pay for that.
Yeah, right now it's free in the repository, and I share the link in the chat window.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm trying to grab all these links.
Yeah. You can when you record it, it will be in your folder.
Yeah.
In the chat. Yeah, so
I have to remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to open the floor. I mean, I know we just really touched the surface of some of the things available. I would recommend, if you have not tried it yet, to try it. It's not going to break anything. You can do a self-install. You can do a page on a site, but it does. If you're accustomed to the classic editor, there is a learning curve because it works differently. It has a different way, and you're like, you expect it to be one thing and it's not. But once you figure out where things are, there's things like I can't function with when I have a classic editor open. I'm like, how am I going to make a button? What am I going to do with the line? That I've got accustomed to using the blocks with. But it's worth playing with. I have heard that people who are new to WordPress who start with the block editor take to it much faster. So if you have clients who aren't familiar with WordPress at all, at this point, when I have new people, I really try to just go straight to the block editor, because why confuse them with both?
That makes a lot of sense. I would also add that you may not want to just go out and grab every single block collection. You can find and go all blocktastic and run into a lot of problems because they're fighting in the background. You maybe go with one at a time that gets you most in the ballpark of what you want, and go that way.
Yeah. So the learn.wordpress.org just kind of put, I think it's up for 3 months or something like that, but there's an intro to publishing with block editor, and it's a very nice introduction to just creating content with it. Yeah, and then there are little discussion groups about that. So I think that is, if you have new people that come online, to give them a resource, that's definitely an official resource. There are other intros there. There's an intro to block pattern, and then also to intro to the block directory for the block editor. I really like that we have now official resources for that.
Right. That's very, I mean, I used to send people to, and I still would, WP 101. Is that what it's called? Yeah, people are nodding their head.
Yeah, there's also easy WP, no. Ah, damn it, I forgot it again. It's a very, good to remember resource, but what's it, easy WP?
And once again, we're putting links in the chat, but we're also going to share these. If you're not part of our Slack channels, talk to one of the leads, let us know, and we'll get you in the Slack channel. And that's where I know in my group, I put these lists and announce things.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Courtney, for the easy WP guides. Yeah, they're excellent. Excellent.
Oops.
Yeah.
Dead link.
I see we have a hand raised from Kevin Sparkman.
Here, that's a correct link here.
Is that a question?
Yeah, I have a question, a couple of questions. So with these different collections of blocks, Genesis blocks, and then the others that were discussed tonight, I have Genesis blocks on a couple of sites, but I'm just curious about, if you've worked with sites where you are installing like multiple collections of blocks and kind of what that means for, I guess, usability in the back end, and whether it's worth it, or you can't kind of pick and choose what blocks you want out of these collections, I guess. So I'm curious about any feedback on that. And I just have one other quick question. The gentleman, I can't remember who was talking about the Gutenberg plugin versus just the block editor. Like on all my sites, which are all custom developed sites, I don't actually have the Gutenberg block, or I'm sorry, the Gutenberg plugin. So I'm a little bit confused about that. Maybe you could touch on that again.
Okay, so WordPress now, starting with 5.0, has the block editor. Originally, that was called Gutenberg. It was developed as a plugin. So when new things are being experimented on and tried and being pushed out, they'll put them in the Gutenberg plugin. I don't think anybody showed anything from the Gutenberg plugin tonight. Are they still not recommending the Gutenberg plugin for production sites, Birgit, or is that just
Well,
on the user?
It is not recommended for production. I have been using it for production since summer of 2018. Once in a while, I run into some trouble, and then I just disable it. But but by then there was only 2 weeks ahead of every 2 weeks a new plugin comes out, plugin version comes out. So I only had to wait 2 weeks, and then it was fixed. But now there are things in the plugin that you can already see the demonstration of the full site editing experience, that it will come sometime this year. I don't think that anything of that comes into 5.7 because there was such a short distance between the December release and the March release. And I think in February 2nd, there's already the beta. So there's not a whole lot of new things that will come in there. But if you have, and so the full site editing only works when you have, those of you who haven't seen the word, state of the word, there is, there was a little demo about the site editor, how you can change templates, how you can change the loop, the section where you say, okay, this is my archive page and this is how I want the collection of posts to look like, that you can all do that in the site editor. That is only available in the plugin right now because it's tested. It's everybody kind of shoots. You can't. It's not ready for production yet. But if you have an old theme, or I say old, but a normal theme that is not yet a built for full site editing, you will not see it in the plugin because that only comes to place when the editor knows, okay, this plugin is for the site editing, for the full site editing experience. Yeah. But there was another question Kevin had. Oh, I forgot.
It was just about using multiple collections of these block editors.
I would not put in on a site more than 2 different block collections. Normally you could stick with 1 because they're all pretty much kind of having the only difference is, or have the most selection of, there's always a pricing table, there's a feature list, there's a accordion most of the time. It's personal preference, and if there's a matching theme with it, I think that's the ideal combination. So Cadence theme with Cadence blocks, or Genesis theme with Genesis blocks. There's a theme with the Go theme from GoDaddy with the Go block. No, they're not Co blocks. They're Co blocks. Go and Co. Yeah. But there's also a block manager built into the block editor where you can switch off a lot of blocks that you don't need or don't want. so they're not crowding your left side inserter, yeah, where you have the whole kitchen table, not kitchen table, the kitchen drawer, yeah, where you kind of ruminate through it and say, where is it, that little thing that I only use once a year for my Thanksgiving turkey or something like that.
I didn't know there was a block manager. That's already part of it. Is that?
Yeah, you find it under the 3-dot menu on the right hand.
Here, let me open up. Blah. What happened to my screen? There we go.
I can do it. Yeah. Is it here? That's it.
I'm gonna open up. So where is it then?
It's here on the. Can you all see my screen?
Oh, nope. I have my screen open.
Okay.
So when did you?
So on here on the 3-dot menu here, you see the block manager, and then you can just kind of uncheck them. I have unchecked right now groups and plugins and all that. So if I wanted to show off the group block, I would be surprised that it wouldn't be available. The widgets and then the embeds and then and the plugins that come in also will be listed in that. So right now I have 103 blocks disabled, but I'm sorry, but this is a site where I have a lot of plugins already installed because I wanted to show them off. Yeah, and so I can.
So do you mean this thing on the left here, when you hit this here, when you're in full screen mode?
Yeah, when I'm full screen mode. Oh, or in any editor. Yeah, when you go and
you can see all the things that are available. The thing that's very nice.
Tools, yeah.
The other thing about the block editor and getting used to using it is if you're using other premium plugins, they're developing first for the block editor. I know the company I work with, Paid Memberships Pro, we have blocks that have to do with our plugin. If you're using the event calendar, there's blocks that have to, well, I don't know if they do, but so if you're using the block editor, you can have access to a lot of newer updated features if you're using that. It'll take the place of shortcodes quite often. So I don't have an install of that to show right now, but it's a matter of just playing with your site, playing and seeing what's there. Because everybody's is going to go look, Birgitte's is going to look different than mine because we're going to have different things installed, different plugins.
Yeah, so I would say that the block patterns came very late to the block editor, and all the block collections were actually done in the first 2 years before it came out, and then a year afterwards, and then. But the block patterns is actually that what a lot of people are going to use, and the new default theme 2021 has quite a selection of block patterns, and what you can create, and there are some plugins out there where you can create a reusable block and then convert it into a block pattern. So the difference between a reusable block and a block pattern, that's kind of something that some people are, so reusable block are more text snippets that are the same on multiple pages. And when you change it once, it's changed on all the pages where that block is used. And block pattern is just a collection of core blocks that are where the settings are already done. The color is already set, the font is set, the picture is set, or the background is set, all that. And you just pull it into your content and then adjust it as you want to do it. And that has been, came in very late into the block editor. But I think that's the future where a lot of designers can really shine, and you don't have to install a plugin. You can, they're actually building a block pattern directory. So, and if I share that just briefly, which one was it? Yeah, this one. I can, yeah, when you have a new post, oops, new post. And I have here Here's a second tab that is pattern. Yeah, so I can have this beautiful collection. Oops, inserted. Well, it says it's inserted, but it isn't. Why is it not? Oh, I actually see. Huh. Interesting. Oh, maybe because I switched them off. This one works, yeah. Because in the block manager, have the group blocks are disabled. So I guess I need to enable it.
Oh, look at that. See, there's a lot of granular control you can have.
Yeah. So let's try to get this one over. Yeah, now it works. Yeah. And now I can just switch that out, replace that picture from the media library. Just add this one. And I don't have to fiddle with it. I just replace it. And then I have my block pattern going.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are plenty of those. And that's where the themes are going to shine.
Now, Birgit, the block patterns, is that theme dependent or is it just pure core at this point?
That is actually theme dependent.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of them are so the theme does only the styling.
Okay.
So if the style's gonna go away with a different theme, then you will still have the blocks, but they will look differently for the next theme. Yeah. So that's kind of the core idea of a theme. It's just that's the pretty part and not the custom post types and all the other things. Yeah.
While you've got this up, Courtney had asked, will we see blocks and widgets?
We do see blocks and widgets, yes. They're actually, so when you get them, it's going to be here.
Oh. Is that Gutenberg?
That's the plugin.
Yeah.
Yeah. The widget screen is already replaced in the plugin with the blocks enabled one. And then so you can, add another block here, and that's just a normal paragraph. Yeah, and then this is my paragraph.
Nice.
Let's update that. Yeah. And there was an error.
Yeah.
Yay.
Birgit, I'm sorry to take advantage of you. But one thing we didn't show was some people may be concerned if they have a site already and they turn on blocks. Can you show the classic block on one of the pages?
So I just need to install it.
Oh, no, it's a block.
Oh, the classic block. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. Like what
No.
will show up when they open a page that wasn't built with blocks?
Yeah, if it comes from so if we go here, if I haven't switched it off, yeah, it is a classic block. So this is my content.
Looks just like your old editor.
And do it a block and then go here and do bold, and then I got a kitchen sink here.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
So
it was my favorite, but I haven't touched a classic block or a classic editor for quite a while now.
Well, I've been slowly bringing over some sites, and every once in a while it opens up and I'll see classic editor and I'm like, oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It just puts it there. It stays the same. It works like it did before, as long as I don't mess with it.
Yeah. And there is so when you have an old site and you don't want to, you just kind of switch on the block editor or switch off the classic editor and you say, from this moment on, I want to use the block editor. That's pretty much the best way to do it. Just leave the old posts alone until you really need to edit them.
Right.
And then you kind of can try to get get them to open with the block editor. So that's why I wanted to show a classic editor installed together with a Gutenberg install.
Oh, I
because
see.
there is a way to do that, where you can have the two things next to each other.
That's right. You can have both.
Oh, classic. Oops.
And then somebody's asking, with the block that you showed, how do you get rid of the space between two media text blocks to make them stack on top of each other, like in your example?
Yeah, I had this example here. Yeah, where they are.
No space.
That is, yeah, you cannot have a minor spacer thing. So we did that. That came with a theme that we did. That's a Genesis theme that automatically, but we actually control that through CSS. Yeah, so we kind of took all the padding and all the margins away.
I think I've found on some themes that you're more likely to have it just work if you try the full width block version of this and not the contained. So you could play with that and see if it just happens for you.
Yeah,
also.
good point. Yeah, good point.
But otherwise, CSS is always your friend.
Yeah. So now when you have
not.
right, when you have, so under writing, so I have the classic editor installed now, and then you get two choices here. You get default editor for all users. You could do it the classic block or the block editor, and then allow users to switch editor, do that to yes, and then they can kind of decide what you want to do. Got to save this. And then when you go to all posts, all of a sudden you get here the notification. This was done with a classic editor. This was done with a block editor. This was done with a, yeah. So if you, I wouldn't go, you can classic to block, but I wouldn't go back. Yeah, so I only would do it in one direction. But when you go in and say, okay, I open this with a block editor, but that was one that we just did. You have the whole page in this classic block, yeah, all with the pictures and everything. And then on here, you get a tool that says convert to blocks, and that then creates the header block or the space block or the, not the spacer block, but the horizontal line if you have them, the paragraph block. If you have images, yeah, you can see them as well. So yeah, but then it goes into, so I did that, and now here I have that quote block. Now I can go larger here, and then I have that paragraph block. Yeah. I think that's, yeah, and then start from there. It will be tricky when you want to migrate from a classic editor content all the way to a fully new developed theme that is only that's block optimized. There is a plugin out there that does bulk conversions, which is pretty good if you have normal content. If it's content in custom post types and all that, if it's just blogs, it's really good. It's called bulk converter.
Bulk converter.
Bulk converter, or maybe not. Yeah, here it is, by Organic Themes.
Now, one thing I'm noticing with a number of these, and this happened with mine, is, and this is my fear or thing I'm watching, like I look at this and it's like, oh, this hasn't been updated in a year. And you like even the editor's kit that I shared hasn't been changed in 5 months. And I always get like, oh, I hope they haven't stopped working on it.
Yeah, and it can be a little bit tricky, especially when the Gutenberg plugin kind of moves far ahead of plugins. When they change a few things, it has been now much more stable than before. That it might not, yeah. But you're right, it's a risk, yeah. But so if you are nice to them, you can.
Right. If you can't get in touch with the developer, then maybe maybe it's not what you want.
Yeah.
And I would think sometimes for one like this, maybe somebody really, really needed to do this and they decided to just throw the plugin they made for themselves on the repo, and then
Yeah. That's
maybe
exactly what
that
happened.
great, but
Yeah.
yeah, maybe they were done their project and like forgot the whole thing.
Yeah, that's exactly how it happened, Amy. The guys from Organic Themes, and that's how they introduced it. They
Okay.
used it for a client that they needed a bulk converter because they have thousands of blog posts.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, okay, we make it a plugin, and
Right.
it still worked 2 months ago when I used it for a site. So that's
Mhm.
all I know.
Good.
Yeah.
Hey, so
And it-
maybe we should say our official goodbye, but then stay and hang out with whoever wants to hang out, because I see some people are leaving. Is that a good idea?
Yeah,
Sounds
so
great.
if you want to give our,
I don't know. What's our official goodbye? Just, it was great to see all of you here. I hope all of you got something that you're going to take away and use or test or
Mhm.
share. And this was brought to you by the Lehigh Valley WordPress Meetup. That's Kim. And the Philly Burbs Meetup, that was Liam. And the Philly WordPress Meetup, that's me and Kevin. Look for our Slack channels, ask us for an invitation, send us a message on Meetup or Twitter. And we hope we see you again.
yes, and someday in person.
Yeah.
Someday in
Someday.
person. We love you all.
And I'm going to.
So